Dalit Aleph. And these are the items liable to tithing as Demai. Everywhere, pressed pigs, dates, carobs, rice, and cumin. Whoever uses rice from outside Eretz Yisrael is exempt. Whoever undertakes to become trustworthy must tithe what he eats and what he sells and what he buys, and when he may not be the guest of an Amaretz. Rabbi Yehuda says even one who is the guest of an Amaretz is considered trustworthy. They said to him, if it is not trusted regarding himself, how can he be trusted regarding what belong to others? Whoever undertakes to become a chaver may not shall sell to an am aretz anything moist or dry, nor may he buy from anything that is moist, and may not be the guest of an am aretz, nor may he receive him as a guest in his garments. If Yehuda says nor may he breed small cattle or be prone to making vows or digesting, nor may he defile himself by the dead, but he ministers in the house of study. But they said to him, those do not come within the principle. These two.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, Nachtamim being bakers, lo chiyavu osam chachamim lahafrish. So if bakers received flour from an Amaretz, the chachamim did not require him to all that he was allowed, that he had to take was Chumas Maser, which is 1% of whatever he received from the Amaretz, and Chala, which he has to separate in any event, whether it's Demai or not. So what are they exempting him from from Maser Sheni. Maser Sheni is a significant portion. That's 10% of whatever's there, and he has to redeem it and take it to Yerushalayim. And because bakers don't have that much of a margin, the Chachamim put price controls on the bread. So they didn't have much of a margin, but on the other side, they said, listen, if we're going to put price controls in here and not allow you to sell above a certain price, then at least we're going to give you an exemption from Demai, from Maser Sheni of Demai, because that's a big tircha for them, and so they're off the hook. However, shopkeepers who are buying from the Amei Aretz and then selling on, they don't have such an exemption. They're not allowed to sell Demai either. They've got to make sure that it's been properly timed before they can sell it on to anyone. כל המשפיעים במידה גסה רשאים למכור אסד המים. So whoever is accustomed to measuring in a large measure, in other words, like wholesalers, Rashayin Limkor Esed Demai, they are permitted to sell Demai, but of course they have to inform the buyer that listen, this is Demai, because wholesalers don't have a huge margin. They're also dealing with small margins. So Chachamim said, fine, you're allowed to sell it on as Demai, but you have to inform your buyer Demai. Elohein Hamashpin b'midagasa, and who is in this general klal of those who measure in a large measure? Kigon hasitonas or mochre tavua. So like the sitonos are the wholesalers and sellers of and the sellers of produce, farmers basically. Okay. Rabbi Meir Omer, es shedarka hi maded begasa umedado bedaka tefela daka legasa. So when something is generally sold in a large measure, and he measured it out in a small measure, it doesn't matter, says Rabbi Meir. It's still treated as produce of a large of that type. So when you have, in other words, I think he may be there's some discussion over here whether he's disagreeing or agreeing with the Tana of our previous Mishnah. And the converse is also true, that if you have produce, small produce like pulse legumes, and umadad of a gasa, and he sold it in large measure, then it is still considered pulse, and it's and we treat it as if it's measured in a small measure. So what Rabbi Meir is telling us is that it's about the produce. It's not about what measure you're selling it in, and or what's the role of the person who's selling it. So if it's a wholesaler and he doesn't have a large measure, but he comes and he's taking a whole bunch of scoops of small measure, it's still considered the same thing, and we're not going to change his din as far as Demai is concerned. Ezahi midagasa. What's considered a midagasa? Biyavesh shloshes kavin. Three kav is called a large measure. Ovelach dinar. And we're talking about when we're talking about wet produce, things that are measured in yeah, like oil. So that's a dinar measure. Rabbi Yossi Omer Sale Teinim Sale Anavim, if you have baskets of figs, baskets of grapes, the kupos shel yirak and campers of vegetables, Kozman Shehu Mochran Achsara Patur. If he's selling them by the unit rather than by weight, then he's also patur from Demai because that's considered large measure. However, the Chachamim disagree with Rabbi Yossi on this, and I think the halacha is not like him. Is that right? Shilok Rabbi Yossi. Yes, Rambam paskins that these things are still chayav in Demai, and you would have to separate them out before selling them out.
We're
Okay,
talking about baskets of figs or grapes. We're talking about
yeah, the baskets when you're selling them as a unit,
a
saying
unit. That's a unit, right?
right,
Right.
so selling it
All
by the
right.
unit rather than by weight.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Machilin es hanim demai ve'es achsanya demai. So here are some people that are allowed to eat demai. We said earlier that you're allowed that you make a bracha on eating it, and you can somebody who's eaten it is allowed to bench with you with the zimun. Um, okay. So who's allowed to eat demai? Aniyim. If you've got demai in your possession and you don't want to eat it yourself, you can feed it to aniyim
Right.
and
Okay.
and they're entitled. You should inform them. Look, this is Demai, and it's up to them if they want to eat it straight or not. If they want to be machmir on themselves, but they're permitted to eat Demai as it is.
So these are
Hmm?
the troops, the army that's on the move.
So that's the next thing is the Achsanya. That's the army that's on the move. Mm. So that's the Achsanya. So when if you have an army that's coming through, and presumably we're talking here about Jewish soldiers, um, and they need to be fed. We went to a barbecue last night up by the Lebanese border,
Oh,
um,
wow.
and fed the soldiers there.
Wow.
And yeah,
I'm
so
sorry, who did that? You did that.
I went
You
I went
said,
I went up yesterday last night with Lamanachai.
oh my God. Oh.
Yeah.
I never hear of these things. I don't know.
Oh, you want to join?
I don't, it depends on when it is and those
Yeah,
that kind of
sure.
stuff.
But if you're
Just as
interested,
long as I know, but it's,
yeah. Okay.
I'll speak.
There's a regular group of us too. Yeah. Okay, okay, and you can feed the soldiers, Demai. They're also in the category of like we just got to get them fed. There are a lot of them.
Right.
And we saw the amount of meat that we prepared last night and how fast it went down. Rabban Gamliel, Machil es po'alav demai. So Rabban Gamliel fed his workers demai. Now that's a little controversial because if his contract is that he had to feed them, then you can't use demai to pay off the debt. So what they speculate about this is that this was above and beyond that he wasn't required by his contract to feed them, and he decided to do a chesed with them anyway. And since they were aniyim, he was allowed to feed them demai. Gabbai tzedakah. What about people who are collecting tzedakah and people give them donations of produce, yeah, food packages. So Beis Shammai say, what you got to be careful with this because nosnin esa musar she'ena musar. So if you're collecting produce from people who are ne'emanim, then you can put them into one bag and say, okay, we know that this is musar, and you should give those to the aniyim who don't who are suspected, who are not ne'emanim. And conversely, There's She'enim, if you have a wealthy person who's not Ne'eman, he gives you produce, which is Demai. What you should do is give that to an ani who is known to be ne'eman, and then that way nimtzeu kol adam ochlin mitzukan. Then therefore everyone will eat mitzukan. Chachamim omrim. Chacham. It's interesting here that normally you see Beis Shammai versus Beis Hillel, but here it's like Chachamim omrim as opposed to Beis Hillel say. Just interesting observation right now. Govin stam umechalkin stam v'arotze l'taken yitaken. You don't have to do that. The whole heter of feeding demai to aniyim means you do not have to distinguish between what people give you, what people give out. We're not matriach people to say you have to go and collect this. You have to take master of this. We just give it to the aniyim, and they can choose for themselves if they're going to be machmir on themselves.
Okay.
Okay.
Peah, Zion olive. An olive tree that is a name in the field, even the netufah olive tree in its time, and he forgot it. It is not chikakah. To what does this refer? To its name, to its performance, and to its place. To its name, that was Shivkoni or Batsani. To its performance, that it yields much. To its place, that it stands alongside a press or alongside a breach. And all of the olive trees, though two are shikakah, but three are not shikakah. Rabbi Yossi says there is no shikakah for olives. If an olive tree standing among three rows of two rectangles was forgotten, it is not shikakah. If an olive tree which contains two saws was forgotten, it is not shikakah. When does this apply? When he has not begun. But if he had begun, even as the netufai olive in its time, and he forgot it, it has shikakah. As long as he has under it, it has in its top. And Ramea says from the time the machbea is gone. Sorry. Okay, for what is parrot, which falls off the tree at the time of the vintage, if while a person is harvesting, he cut the cluster by its stalk, it became entangled in its leaves, it fell from his hand to the ground and was separated, then this belongs to the owner. If he sets down the basket under the vine when he's harvesting, then he robs the poor. Of him it has been said, remove not the landmark of those who come up.
Okay. Brachos.
Dalet Aleph. The tefillah of the morning until noon. Rabbi Yehuda says till 4 hours of the day. The mincha tefillah until the evening. Rabbi Yehuda says until midway through the mincha. The evening tefillah is not fixed, and the musaf all day. Rabbi Yehuda says until the 7th hour. Nechemia ben Hanana would enter the mid-bedroom of the party, would offer a short prayer. They asked him, what place is there for this prayer? He said to them, when entering, I pray that no stumbling block should arise through me, and when I leave, I give thanks to my lot. Rabbi Gamil states that every person is obliged to recite Shemona Esrei daily. Rabbi Yeshua says the digest of Shemona Esrei. Rabbi Kiva says if his prayer is fluent in his mouth, he recites Shemona Esrei, and if not, a digest of the 18.
Okay.
To
Mikvos.
Okay, test 5. When found on garments, if only one side, it does not intervene. But if on both sides, it does intervene. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Yisrael, even on one side, it does intervene. Rabbi Yossi says on garments of Torah scholars, it intervenes even on one side. But on those of the on those of the bore, it only intervenes when on both sides. On the apron of pitch workers, of potters, of tree pruners, he does not intervene. Rabbi Yehuda says that the same applies to the apron of fruit dryers. This is the general rule. Anything which one finds disturbing intervenes. Anything which one does not find disturbing does not intervene. All handles of utensils that were inserted improperly, or they were inserted properly but were not finished, or they were finished but became broken, those intervene. If a vessel was immersed with its mouth downward, it is as though it is not immersed. If it was versed the normal way but without its appendage, it does not become tahor unless it is turned on its side. A vessel which is narrowed at both ends and wide in its middle cannot become tahor unless it is turned on its side. And a bottle whose rim is turned downwards cannot become tahor unless it is pierced on the side. And a layman's inkwell cannot become tahor unless it is pierced on its side. Yosef Cohen's inkwell was pierced on the side. And we have Caleb. Vav base. If one set a pot upon a stove and upon an oven, or upon a stone and upon an oven, If one set a pot upon a stone and upon an oven, or upon a stone and upon a stove, or upon a stone and upon a kupach, it is tameh. If one set apart upon a stone and upon a second stone, or upon a stone and upon the bedrock, or upon a stone and upon a wall, it is tahor. And this was the stove of the Nezirim in Yerushalayim that was built against the bedrock. The stove of butchers, when he places one stone alongside another stone, and one of them becomes tummy, the others do not become tummy. Three stones are made into two stoves. One, if one of the outer stones became tummy, the middle of the middle part of the stone that serves the tummy stone is tummy, but the part that serves the tower stone is tahor. If the tower stone was removed, the middle stone becomes entirely tummy. If the tummy stone was removed, the middle stone becomes entirely tahor. If the two outer stones became tummy, if the middle stone was large, one allots as much as it is needed to set a pot on either side, and the remainder is tahor. But if it was small, it is entirely tummy. If the middle stone was removed, if a large cauldron can be set upon the stove, it is tummy. If the stone was returned, it is tahor. If the stone was plastered with clay, it will be susceptible to tumor from when one heats it enough to cook an egg on it. Okay. Basa.
No, another one.
I just skip. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. The two stones were made into a stove and became tummy, and then one placed a stone next to one of the tummy stones on one side, and a stone next to the other tummy stone on the other side. Half of one tummy stone is tummy, and half of it is tahor, and half of this other tummy stone is tummy, and half of it is tahor. If the tahor stones were removed, the other returns to the state of the tumor.
Okay.
And we have hey, yes, hey. One who sells the head of a large animal has not sold the legs. If he sold the legs, he has not sold the head. If he has sold the trachea, he has not sold the liver. If he has sold the liver, he has not sold the trachea. However, in the case of a small animal, if he sold the head, has also sold the legs. If he sold the legs, he has not sold the head. If he sold the trachea, he has sold the liver. If he sold the liver, he has not sold the trachea. There are four rules for dealing with sales. If he sold him superior wheat and it was found to be inferior, the buyer can retract. If he sold him inferior wheat and it was found to be superior, the seller can retract. If he sold him inferior wheat and it was found to be inferior, or superior wheat and it was found to be superior, neither can retract. If he sold him red wheat and it was found to be white, or white wheat and it was found to be red, or he sold him olive wood and it was found to be sycamore, or sycamore and it was found to be olive, or he sold him wine and it was found to be vinegar, or vinegar and it was found to be wine, both of them can retract. If one sold produce to another, if he drew it but did not measure, he has acquired it. If measured but did not draw, he has not acquired. If he is prudent and rents a space, one who buys flax from another does not acquire it until it moves it from place to place. If it was attached to the ground and he's attached to the amount, he has acquired it. Okay.
Okay.
One more? No, that's it. Right.
That
By the way, I don't think you put the recording on today.
I
Did
did.
you? Oh, you did. I didn't hear.
Yes, it is recording. So yeah.
Okay, base. Okay, base. It once happened that two were even as they ran in the seventh ramp, and one of them pushed his colleague and he fell and his leg was broken. Once the court realized that there was a danger, they instituted that they not remove the ashes from the altar except by lot. There were four lots there. This is the first lot. The second lot was to determine who slaughters, who slows the blood, who clears the ashes from the inner altar, who clears the ashes from the menorah, and who brings the limbs of the daily burnt offerings to the ramp. The head and the hind leg, the two forelegs, the tail and the hind leg, the breast and the neck, the two sides and the intestines, the fine flour, the kavita meal offering, and the wine. 13 Kohanim won it. And Asai and Akiva's presence called Rebbe Yeshua if it was offered in the same way as he walked. The third lot, those new to the incense come and draw lots. And the fourth lot was for new and old to determine who takes the limbs up from the ramp to the altar. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I wanted to get you
Okay.
on time.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good day. Bye.
Good
Bye.
day. Bye.